Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Thank you for joining in today. I am TJ Whitehead, Powers Taken Not Given, and I have the special honor and pleasure and privilege of being joined by the world-renowned Jay Salazar. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm okay. I don't even know if I'm city renowned, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, listen, no, honestly, though, I must have told you this, that when I started making content a couple years ago, and I was maybe a year into it or something, and I found out you were following me. That was a big deal. That was a very big deal to me because I was like, "Oh my God, this dude is really something." And I had always liked your work, and I think you may have just commented on one of my videos, like, "Holy shit, this guy follows me." It was a big deal to me. So,
That's so funny.
yeah, you may do the modesty thing all you want, but I will sing your praises for you all day long.
I promise you, I'm not doing the modesty thing. Maybe it's what's it called? What's it called when you what's that phrase where it's imposter syndrome? A lot of it, insecurities and all that. We're working through that in therapy. But I promise you, I'm not like I'm not trying to. I'm joking.
No, it's all right. So, imposter syndrome is an interesting thing because when I first heard about it a couple years ago, I recognized it immediately. I had never studied it, I hadn't heard about it, but I have felt like an imposter my entire life. And in fact, I find it hard to believe that anyone doesn't feel like an imposter their entire life.
I think that amplifies it. The fact that I'm like, yo, you think you're just out here killing it, and you know you're killing it, and you don't have any insecurities, and you don't feel like you're a fraud. And maybe they do, but because they're confident, or because they're not even portraying the fact that they confused about something, or they don't know everything. It makes it feel worse for me. So I'm like, if everybody can just be out here and say, hey, I suck at this, I'm terrible at this, I'm not really strong here. If everybody was just honest with that, I feel like a lot of imposter syndrome would go down.
Yeah, I agree because it's hard for people to do, and it's actually hard to explain because I don't know what I expect from myself. And the person who I want to be is James Bond, someone who just picks up anything in any setting and you're a rock star all the time. That person does not exist. They can't possibly exist. But that's what I expect myself to be. So
Mhm.
I recognize my strengths and I recognize where I excel and I notice where I say, okay, I seem to do that a lot better than others from what I've noticed. But that's like 10% of your life. And then
Mhm.
90% is either your average or shockingly below average. And I can't get those out of my head. Like people who excel at stuff that I feel like I should. And whenever I'm killing it at something, I'm always thinking, okay, but I suck at something else. And I don't know how it doesn't just cloud you all the time because I am a very confident person, but only because I know where I am strong, a lot of people aren't. And so I can exude those. So a lot of people would be surprised to find out that I'm riddled with insecurity all the time.
Yeah, I'm not a confident dude, but I I am confident that if
Yeah.
you let me be terrible at something for long enough, I will be great, or I can be great. I don't know that I'll be the best at that thing, but I can be great, right? When I became a teacher, I was like, yo, give me time. And now I genuinely, after 9 years, I now think I'm a pretty great teacher. People thought I was a great teacher after like four, but for me, it took me 5 more years to get there. But like, social media, I'm like, I think I'm getting the hang of this thing. And at first, I wasn't. And eventually, I picked it up, and many people are way more successful than me. There are many people who are more successful than me after making content for like 3 months, and that's just how it goes. But again, for me, the imposter syndrome takes over because when I do feel confident, when I do feel like I'm doing this thing, I guess other people expect me to be good or be great, and I'm like,
Yes.
and when we converse, when we have a conversation, we I said the same thing twice. When we converse or we collaborate or something, I'm thinking about, okay, do they think I'm a fraud? Do they have this expectation of me, but I'm actually here? But this was high for me, but for them, it's not high enough. Like all these things come in when people expect me to be good. Um, but for me, as long as nobody else speaks to me about how they feel about me, I'm like, I got this. So when you say, "Oh my God, your work," I'm like, "Oh, crap."
No, no, I get that. I get that 100% because when I don't know when you're folks like us or whatever, you're right. People do tend to put high expectations on you for everything. For example, for me, I know a lot of stuff, and so
You
people will
do.
assume. So people assume I'm smart in every category all the time. No, I'm smart in like 3 categories, and they're the ones I talk about. You'll never hear me talk about motor vehicle maintenance. You will never hear me talk about it because I don't know shit when it comes to motor vehicle.
Unless your ADHD wants you to learn about it next month.
That's an interesting. That works, but I need to be interested in it, and I don't care. Like I just don't care about.
One day,
it's coming.
A Thursday in 2027, you'll be like, I think I want to learn more about this. 3 weeks later, you're gonna be like, oh, actually, it's the continuum transfunctional.
Yeah. That's. I have just had someone. So I do take ADHD medication. I don't talk about it a whole lot because it feels weird to talk about. But someone called me on it out of nowhere one day on social media. They said, hey, someone I didn't even know. It was like, hey, do you happen to have ADHD? I was like, wow, yeah. How did you know that? I never mentioned it one time. It's like a year and a half ago. And they said,
I saw that video.
Oh, you did? Do you remember what I said? I said that.
Well, that's why I mentioned it because I thought, my bad. I thought you were like talking about your ADHD more now in your content. I just saw those few videos.
Oh, I don't bother mentioning it now. But before, I had never said it. And so I was surprised that anyone noticed it. And at the video, I said that, well, why did you know? Or how did you know? And they said, well, you seem to have a lot of interest in several unrelated topics. And honestly, I thought, isn't that everybody? I was like, that seemed like a weird catch to me because I would have figured everyone had multiple interests. And I looked up, so, oh, that is one, which still kind of shocks me because I just refuse to believe anyone only has 1 or 2 interests. I can't accept that.
Yeah, no, the interests come and then you know, I don't know about you, but then you get obsessed about something for a short amount of time or sometimes for years.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really mediocre and decent at a lot of different things that you never would expect.
Those come in handy though. That jack of all trades stuff does come in handy. Everyone wants to no one really knows how to pitch it.
ADHD.
Huh? Oh, Jack, there you go. Jack had ADHD. That's oh god. We'll get to the actual interview here, I swear. But you know what? I'll write that down for my trivia for the day. Actually, I'll say that at the end of the show. That's a good one. I'll remember this. All right, it's better than one I had. Okay, so we'll hop right into everything we're going to talk about. So, yeah, how you doing, man, with this election and everything? I'm just curious. I don't think I've seen you mention it yet, or maybe you have, but I didn't run across it because there's been a lot of content out there. But ever since the election, well, first, were you surprised at the end results? And how did you what do you think this says about us as a nation?
I wasn't surprised. I think I was more surprised if it was a result. I'm sorry. I think I was more surprised because I expected Kamala Harris to do better. I was at the point like if she won, I'd be like, oh, great, like she won. But I was also at the point where I'm like, if Donald Trump wins, I wouldn't be. Like I don't like people were like, oh my God, our nation. I'm like, bro, what he lost last time, but he didn't lose by a lot. Like, if you think 48% of people who voted it, or whatever the percentage was, if you don't think it's a lot of people, that's a lot of people. The ideologies are going more far right. So like I wasn't surprised. It was disheartening. It was scary. It is scary. Makes me nervous. Makes me sad. Makes me angry. All the feelings. I went from talking to my therapist bi-weekly, every other week rather, and the last couple weeks we've set up. The last couple weeks and the upcoming weeks we're doing it every week for another like maybe month, and we'll see if I can bring it back after that. But yeah, it's a lot, and that's not the reason I'm doing more therapy, but that definitely didn't make it better.
Right? Yeah, it didn't didn't smooth it out at all. Yeah, so yeah, like you said that Trump didn't lose by a lot. You expected Harris to at least do better. I thought she was going to win, so I obviously expected her to do a lot better. But man, those numbers were not good. Like, because the thing you mentioned about so those people who supported Trump 4 years ago, of course, they're going to still support Trump in this election, which turned out to be the case. Trump, like he may have gained like 500,000 votes or something, maybe 1 million. Like, it's pretty much the same, 74, 75 million people. But it was the Democrats that lost a lot of votes. Harris had like 8 million fewer votes than Biden did. And I saw she won New Jersey by 5 points, I think it was. Like New Jersey was 5 points is still a solid win, but for New Jersey, that is relatively close. It's been double digits the past like 12 years or 15 years or so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I look at my neighborhood, there I see Trump flags and every
it
other
didn't
house.
surprise you
So,
then.
so I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Damn, damn. Yeah, it's I know that I try not to be like in bubbles, like a Raptor. Like, well, everyone I know is supporting Harris, so obviously he's gonna win. I really try my best not to think that way, but I was shocked because I honestly expected that after January 6th, after 91 indictments, after they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, after the rape conviction, 34 felony convictions, I was like, there's just no way. There's no way that I didn't think his numbers would drop. I would have expected him to get the same number because you voted for Trump 2024. I mean, you already knew who he was, but I thought the people would be like 2020, where the people, it wasn't that the people really wanted Joe Biden to win this election.
Mhm.
They were repulsed by Trump. And I thought that would carry over. I thought that people would take Trump seriously, but it turns out no. It turns out that what I think happens is that people weren't scared of Trump anymore. They said, well, yeah, he's an idiot, he's a buffoon, he's a racist, but we've been through 4 years of Trump before, we could do it again. And so it clearly did motivate millions of people to go out and vote, which is what I thought was going to happen.
Or maybe many people said, "There's no way," so I can sit this one out. Or "There's no way," so you know what? I'm gonna stick it. I'm gonna stick it to the man, or stick it to the Democrats and just not vote for Kamala Harris,
Mhm.
um, because I know that she's gonna win, right? Maybe there's a lot of reasons, but yeah,
Yeah.
I also thought it was gonna be closer, and it just makes me think that if President Joe Biden was running again, he would have got demolished.
Yes, I agree. I
Like
think he would have gotten crushed a lot
he
worse
would.
than Harris. Yeah, it would have been a massacre.
So maybe that's a positive
Yeah,
thing.
I
I don't
think
know.
that Harris was in an unenviable position, to be fair. She had 3 months to put together a presidential campaign. No one wants to be in that situation. I think given what she had, she did a decent job. There was a lot of stuff I wouldn't have done. The fact that
Hmm.
she openly embraced Dick and Liz Cheney all the time was not
She did.
good. I don't think that sunk the election for her, but I thought that was a bad call. And but looking at those numbers, like you said, it wasn't particular. It was she lost every single swing state, and so it wasn't particularly close. Even for the close states, if you lose all 7 swing states, you're just not going to win. I just don't know if there was anything she could have done to win because it was ultimately a referendum on the Biden administration, which was unpopular. You had inflation that people were worried about. You had the whole Gaza thing, and Harris couldn't break away from Biden. She still tied herself to the administration that had kind of soured in the people's
Kind
eyes.
of have to, no?
I know it was a tough
Yeah.
situation. You can't just completely. I know, right? And so I just don't know if there was any scenario in which she would have won this election. Looking at the margins as wide as they were, losing Pennsylvania by over 100,000 votes, I don't think there was anything to switch that.
Yeah, you won the ones you were gonna win, and then the swing states told the story.
Yeah, but it is kind of dark on that side. So, what do you think this speaks about the nation, though? Because I don't, I don't, hmm, I don't feel like crushingly pessimistic. I don't. I don't think that this is the end. A lot of people the week after the election said, "Oh, pack it up, it's all over." I don't believe that for a second. I think that there's still plenty of time to turn the ship around. But I do worry it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we'll get into a lot of reasons behind that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I also think it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I I don't think I can afford to be super pessimistic. Then it's like, why am I teaching? Like, why am I in front of these children?
Yep.
Why am I trying to get them to care about this claim? For what's the best piece of evidence, right? Why am I trying to get kids to be decent human beings in a country that they allow that person to be the president of the United States? Like, so, um, you know, yeah, keep on keeping on. And if I'm wrong, I'd rather have the naive optimism, um, while I get punched in the face.
Yeah. That's essentially what I said for a long time after this, like that next week, that listen, I understand that you're depressed and you're sad, you're pessimistic, and it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be sad. It's not okay to stay that way because this is you process your feelings, you deal with your emotions, and you move on. And that's why I said, like, the day of the election, I woke up and said, well, if Kamala Harris wins tonight, that's great. I'm going to get up and go back to work and continue spreading leftist agitprop. And if Kamala Harris loses, I'm going to wake up the next day and do the exact same thing. Like, the fight never actually ends. So you can't just give up whenever things get tough on you. And the funny thing is, the Republicans, they were in a similar situation in 2012 when Mitt Romney lost to Obama, because it was almost exactly the same. The Republicans were looking at the polls and they all thought, oh, Romney's got this. He's got it. I know the polls are wrong. I know that there's this swell against Obama, and Romney got crushed, just demolished. And the Republicans spent about 2 months saying that they were, like, openly saying, we're doing an autopsy on the party. We're trying to rearrange how we're thinking. We're going to be, I remember a big platform was that they're going to be more open to immigration than they were in the past. That ended up not happening at all. And they ended up, but, in a way, the autopsy did have the desired effect, just not in the way they thought, because the next person they had was Donald Trump, which kind of reorganized the party around a cult figure like him, and it's worked for them. So I don't think that's what's going to happen with the Democrats, but it is time for the Democrats to shift their messaging and their presentation to the people, because what they have right now is just not appealing to nearly enough folks.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think the shifting will be more right. You're right.
How so?
Because whether people want to admit it or not, all of these marginalized communities, including a lot of my own, are conservative. Not by the way they vote, but a lot of their values. So it wouldn't even be a stretch to lean more right on a lot of different policies, because a lot of people genuinely feel those ways. So if you tie those things in together with a little bit of progress, yeah, you can shift the Democratic Party and get more votes. But it will, I think, just like I think it gets worse before it gets better. I think it gets more right before it goes back to leaning left, or trying to lean left.
This is something that I have been warning about for a very long time. I'm so glad you said this. I know we ever talked about this, but I've been saying this for as far back as I can remember, that the Democrats have relied heavily upon demographics to rescue them. They've said this forever. They said, the Republican Party is about 85% white. It still is. And that minority groups tend to vote left. Still, even like with this, the gains Trump made these last couple elections, majority of every minority group in total did vote blue. But the numbers aren't as big as they used to be. So they said, okay, as time's going to go on, we'll have fewer and fewer white people, more and more minority groups, more women will be involved. And that's going to rescue the Democrats. And no, you can't rely on that. You can't rely on that and not change to the particular background or the particular message you have, because of exactly what you said. I say this all the time, that if the Republican Party weren't so explicitly racist, I'd say like 60-70% of Black people would vote Republican, like easily, because culturally,
even more Latino people would.
Yeah. And this is like, and because culturally, if you talk to, Black and Latino people, very Christian, very religious, not the best on a lot of LGBTQ issues and stuff like that. Yeah. It's go to a
and everybody hates fat people.
Oh yeah. And so it's like they are just especially the older you get, like the older communities of color and everything, shockingly conservative. If it weren't for the explicit racism of the Republican Party, yeah, they'd loop them all up. And especially with if the Democrats could easily switch to, well, we're going to be more conservative on religious issues or cultural issues, I think that's a way they could try to get people back. I hope that's not where they go down the road, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did.
Me either.
Yeah. I saw Free Will and Nomad commented, another great live. Jay is an awesome guest. Hey, Jay is great.
I didn't know we were live.
Oh, no. I didn't tell you that? Oh, I'm so sorry.
You probably did. I thought we were
so sorry.
I thought we were live recording. Hey, people.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So, hey, surprise. We're live right now. Yeah. So, with the nation in general, though, so like politically, the Republicans are going to Republican. They're going to, the Republican Party, man. It's hard to say that the Republican Party is is actually super different because their values are the same. Their values really haven't changed. They're still the same values from 40 years ago, but the outward expression of those values has radically changed. The mask is off, the hood is on. They just don't hide from the fact that, yeah, we're open bigots now. What are you going to do about it? And then revel in your shock at it. So I don't think there's much different from the old Republican Party, new Republican Party, other than performance and appearance and affectation. But the Democrats are going to creep right. But what about the culture in general? Like, what do you think the culture in general is going to look like? Especially because I titled this live "Kids These Days" because you were a teacher and that you do have a lot of involvement with young people. What do you see, and what do you put your crystal ball that you think is going to look like?
I don't even know how to answer that question, to be honest. I just think more daily conversations are gonna sound like sixth graders on a Zoom chat in 2020. And if you don't know what that means,
No, I don't. What does that
it's
mean? Yeah.
the way they speak to each other is wild. And this is like they
How
shrug, the
so?
way they talk. I don't even want to repeat the things, but just the way the comments on each other's bodies, comments on each other's about each other's families, like just and if like, for them as sixth graders, like blah blah blah, hey, let's go hang out. Like it's a normal thing. But I think just same idea. That's like I think that's gonna be like a mirror to what society's gonna look like. Um, increase all of the is and ism, increase bigotry towards the LGBTQIA plus community, increase um, intolerance when it comes to fat people, more openly racist takes, more openly transphobic takes, more, and then just people are okay with it because again, if that can get you the presidency, is it still problematic to say it on a social media platform? Is it still problematic to say it while you're running for mayor and while you're trying to be a judge or trying to create policy? If if that's what again, if that is the leader of the quote unquote free world, then yeah, it's open season on that kind of all the ism and no more quiet parts.
Oh, I hate how similar our takes are on this, honestly. Because one thing that I have always despised, a phrase that I've tried to tamp down as often as I hear it, is when people say, "Oh, don't worry, the kids are going to save us. The kids are going to save us." I've always hated that.
It is not.
Yeah, well, I hate, you know how I know? Because I was a kid once. And I remember them saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
you guys are going to say," you remember that? We were all there. They said we were going to save the world. We didn't. Why would we expect the next group of kids to do it? Also, I hated it because it seemed like an abdication of your responsibility. It's not our kids' job to save the world. That's our job. Like our job is to lead the kids, like to give them a good example and show them how it's done, not sit around and pray they do our work for us. I find it insulting in a lot of ways. Oh, go ahead. You were saying something?
But if the kids are going to save like that idea, I get the idea, but not like the idea, but the actual fear the actual fear that comes with that idea is real because what are they doing in schools? What are they successfully doing in schools? And what are their plans to do with schools? They're trying to change what education looks like even further. They're successfully putting specific Bibles or specific religious texts in front of students in certain states. Like they are so sure that the kids were going to save people that they're like, let's stop it now at the source so that when they grow up, they have more conservative values, and it's working.
Did you see who Trump nominated to be the next Secretary of Education by any chance?
Linda McMahon.
Yeah, Linda McMahon. Linda McMahon
No, I said Mahone.
yeah, but the former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment. That's like, yeah, why not, right? Why not? It's clown show. It's clown world. I don't know. The destruction of public education and honestly just education as an institution has been at the core of conservative philosophy longer than we've been alive. It goes way back to like the 70s, honestly, when they realized that academia was churning out all these leftists and radicals or people who questioned the manifest destiny that the United States was granted as a gift by God onto planet Earth.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh no, that's actually nonsense. And that maybe, minorities and women should have rights, and conservatives have been bucking against it ever since. So to the extent that, did you see the guy in Oklahoma? I feel like you may have seen that. The guy who, you just mentioned it, with Bibles in schools, that,
Mhm.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, I'll go ahead and share this with you folks. So you can see this guy his name is Ryan Walters, and he's the superintendent in the state of Oklahoma. And he he has decreed that every classroom, every public school classroom in Oklahoma needs to have a copy of the Bible. And it's not just any Bible, by the way. And in the rules, it says that the Bible needs to include the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And there's only one Bible that fits this description, and that's the Donald Trump Bible. And he's actually has a copy of it with him. So this is what he had to say about this.
I'm excited to announce today that Oklahoma is the first state to bring the Bible back to the classroom. Today, we purchased over 500 Bibles that will be in the AP government classrooms across the state. Bible just like this. We have the Bible, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. These are foundational documents in our nation's history. Our kids have to understand the role the Bible played in influencing American history. It's very clear that the radical left has driven the Bible out of the classroom, which leads to a lack of understanding of American history. We will not stop until we've brought the Bible back to every classroom in the state.
All right. So, yeah, that's our boy Ryan Walters there. Had you seen that? Had you run across that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, thoughts?
Same thoughts. I just said. I don't know. I saw somebody's take on TikTok. It was like this is like him trying to audition for one of the clown.
Yeah, cabinet. Mm-hmm.
So again, like people. I think there are not a lot of people. There are a good amount of people who when they don't care about, they say they don't care about politics, and it's because they don't think about these things, right? And they don't ask questions, and they don't try to tie how this one thing can impact another thing. And so, and there's many people just considering this like a sport, like, oh, Trump won, get over it, let's move on. Like, we can't move on. This is the impact of Donald Trump winning, and he hasn't even taken the presidency again, and we're already seeing a lot of what a Donald Trump second presidency looks like, and it's scary, right? And it just makes me think about being 18 years old and ignorant, and how peaceful that guy was. And
yeah,
it just makes me like, I get people who don't put themselves in the political world, or don't
yes,
think
yeah,
about it at all. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. But something one day opened my eyes, and I just couldn't. I'm not even super political. I'm really not. Like, it sounds like I am, but I'm really not. A lot of the videos I started to make were to essentially help cultivate the folks who I wanted following me,
mm-hmm.
and get people who I didn't want following me to stop following me.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
One person I saw, there was a mutual post, and she was like, I posted, it was something really small during the, like, when Trump was running for president the first time. She's like, or after he won, I don't know, but I think it was 2020, where she posted something, and she said, I lost 150,000 followers in the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, one, that's a lot. Two, why were 150,000 people following you that you criticized Donald Trump, and they decided to unfollow you? I'm like, that's crazy. I hope that's not my case, right? Who's following me? What? And then I'm like, what can I do to not only get folks to unfollow me, right, and to, moving forward, have people follow me who, for the most part, have certain values, so that when I do say something political, it's not going to be like, what? Like, that was my whole thing when I started doing more political left-leaning satire stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that. I think the ADHD took me down.
No. It's right on track here, because you're talking about people who are supporting Trump and people who aren't political, and how many of those folks end up supporting Trump. And you're dead on. The numbers on this are wild. That the people who follow politics regularly, who know a lot about this, like, this is just like on in the studies, it's something like 65-70% of them voted for Harris, and the people who didn't follow politics at all voted for Trump at like 80%. It's insane. And that is something that Trump is great at. Like, As much as we hate to admit it, and I've had to force myself to face this fact, for this reality for a long time, is that the general median American voter is not voting on policy. They aren't. They probably couldn't tell you 2 or 3 major policy positions that any candidate holds. That when people joke that elections are popularity contests, it's not a joke. That's exactly what an election is. An election, like Barack Obama didn't win 2 crushing elections because people loved his economic policy. That's not why he won.
You think I was 18 years old voting for President Obama because what he's trying to do for like this specific, demographic of people? No, I'm voting for that black man, Barack Obama.
Yeah. Barack Obama was a fucking rock star. He was cool and people liked him and they liked listening to him talk and he was energetic. And it's the same with Trump. It's the same thing. And look, you may not like listening to Trump speak or whatever, but a lot of people do. A lot of people love that Trump is he doesn't sound like an everyday average politician. They love that he's quick on his feet. They love that he reads a crowd. They love that he does admittedly funny insults sometimes. It's a weird thing where they connect to him on a personal level and they don't have to think he's a good guy. They probably don't know anything about politics at all. So when people are like, oh, this guy's a fascist, he's dangerous. Like, oh, the funny TV guy, that's the guy you're telling me is a dangerous. They don't buy it. They don't believe it. And this is something that I wish that Democrats would pick up on, that you can't keep running these elections like it's 1985. You can't do this anymore. You need people with personalities. You need people who can connect with the audience, that they don't feel like there's some sort of machine that they've programmed up there and put in a suit to spout, random policy lines at folks. It's not going to work anymore.
Right. The conservatives and the Republican Party are playing a whole different game, right? A whole different game. And it's not just about who you vote for. Look at the Supreme Court, right? They're playing a whole different game. Oh, it's within a year of Barack Obama's presidency, you can't put somebody in the Supreme Court, right? What was it? Right in the end of Trump's
2 months.
Put 2 months before Trump's presidency is over, they're like, "Oh, you said you can't do this," and the Republicans are like, "Meaner."
Yeah,
they don't care.
They don't. They
like,
don't.
Ha, that's the suck. Like they don't care.
They don't. And this is.
And it's not like the Democrats are. It's not like the Democrats are like, we are so forthcoming and we're very virtuous and we're true to the. No, but you want to portray that and then you let people walk all over you.
Yeah. It's this dedication to the norms and the standards and the rules. All right, that worked in 1995. That worked. That no longer works. And honestly, I do have to commend Donald Trump for one thing, of exposing the sham that is the structure of American politics. That all this time we thought, oh, well, they can't do that. Then Trump's in office. Turns out they can. They can do a whole lot of shit that they pretend that they can't do. The fact that the filibuster is still a thing blows my mind. And for those of you who are wondering what the filibuster is, in the Senate, in the House, if you have a bill that comes forward, all you need is a simple majority for it to pass. 50% plus 1, and it's going to pass. Once it goes to the Senate, it's the same thing in the Senate. You need 50 plus 1 for it to pass. However, in order for the bill to actually be voted upon, it needs 60 senators to say, yes, we can vote on this bill. And which means that if you have 58 senators that say this is a great idea, doesn't matter. You need 60. And it's very difficult to get 60 votes in the Senate, which is why things die there so often. However, that doesn't apply to the 2 things Republicans care about. The filibuster does not apply to budgetary issues, that if you have to put forth hey, we're going to spend this much money for funding the national budget or the military budget or whatever, that's simple majority. It also doesn't apply to the appointments of justices, Supreme Court justices or judges. That's pretty much all Republicans care about. They care about cutting taxes and filling the judiciary with right wingers. But if you want to pass something like raising the minimum wage, need 60 votes. You want to pass something like healthcare reform, need 60 votes. And the funny that the filibuster, not in the Constitution, nowhere. It was made up out of thin air it was like shortly after the Civil War, I think, when people tried to institute laws to protect freed slaves, and they started, or it was either that or right during the Civil Rights Movement, like the 1920s or something. It was racist as hell, the order to filibuster, and we just kept it since then. We can get rid of it at any time, and we won't. And the Republicans use it to squash the popular opinion all the time, and because they don't need it for themselves. So we're kind of stuck with that. And with the fact that the political system doesn't work for us, when you mentioned, I think I wrote down the questions, this topic right here, that you've seen a lot from younger people, like callousness. And I know kids have always been brutal. Like we were all kids. Kids were always mean. That's just, you have to be taught. You have to be taught and socialized in society. So that's not how we behave in public. This is how you talk to people, this is how you treat people. But the isolation, it all comes back to Marx. It always does. But the isolation and the atomization of society has gotten worse and worse and worse as time goes on. And I first had the beginning inklings of this when I was a kid, because I grew up on military bases and I knew all my neighbors. We all were like, especially if you were overseas and like you were the only like American pocket in this foreign country. So you grew up with these kids around you. Everyone moved every 3 years. So your friends, you had new friends every year. You lost friends every year. And so you got to know them. You went out and played and everything. And then when it came to the States, I realized that I didn't really talk to my neighbors anymore. I just never did. And then getting older, I was a recruiter in the military. And I would talk to these guys, these 16, 17, 18, sometimes 20, 22-year-old guys. And you had to fill out references. You had to do academic or professional references and then personal references. So I said, okay, for your personal references, just give us 3 of your friends. And I can't tell you how many times I had these guys look me dead in the face and say, oh, I don't have any friends. I said, come on, you don't have any friends at all? And then I say, well, pull out your phone. You say you have no numbers in there? It's like, no, I mean, I know people, but I don't really hang out with anybody. This happened all the time. It happened. And this is...
Wait, when was this?
This would have been 2018, 2019. That's when this was starting. And then I started seeing more stats on this as time goes on. COVID hasn't made it any better. After COVID, the big jump. So it was pre-COVID when this happened. Yeah, it's important to note. And it...
I was gonna say no, because like the internet, man, right? Because
yes, that's it.
Where you were, right? When you were growing up, even the friends you made, even though you were able to make new friends, it's kind of like these are the friends I'm making, kind of because I have to, or what's available, right? The internet, you can create your own pockets, your own community. You can find people. You can talk to people from West Bubble, and why? So why would I make friends that people why would I make friends with people who happen to be next to me when I can just talk to the person I actually care about, whatever, right? And then like you said, COVID made it even worse. And then now people I feel like people are way isolated. I'm more isolated than I was pre-COVID.
Right, exactly.
I was outside pre-COVID. Now I'm like my couch seems so nice.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I came to as well. That this is, I hate saying this, no one has more pain in saying something than I right. But the boomers were right about this. That's the only thing they were right about. Boomers whiffed on pretty much everything. But when the internet first became a thing, back in the AOL days or whatever and stuff, they said, oh, this is going to keep people in their houses all the time. They're going to be isolated. Society's not going to be as social. And I remember saying, that's ridiculous. With these machines, we're going to connect with people from different states, from different countries. It's going to bring a lot of people together. That is true. However, it has come at a very high price of social engagement that in every area, like people go to bars less, people go to parks less, people go
tired. They don't want to hang out with their coworkers after work. They want to go home.
Yeah.
Go home. I'm tired. I was gonna say the same. I was thinking the same thing when you were talking. I'm like, I saw a video of Gen Z. They're like, they don't want to go to hang out. They don't even have money to hang out because they're not getting paid enough to go spend money at a bar. They're like, you guys used to do that? That's crazy. And I'm like,
you paid extra money to get drunk. You can do that at home, right? Yeah. And especially since like what you mentioned, a good point here is that it grants you full control in how you have fun. Because if we were neighbors, let's say, and I was like, hey Jay, let's hang out on Saturday. And it's like, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, well, I want to go, there's like a softball game or something like, I don't really like softball. What else you got? And then we just banter stuff back and forth. Well, how about a movie? That movie sucks. We have to actually work together to find out a way to have fun. But now it's, oh, I want to watch Goodfellas again. I don't need to wonder if anyone else wants to see it. Oh, I can go home and find, and you don't even have the limitation that we had back in the day where you had to find the movie. Oh, do I have this DVD? Do I have to go find somewhere to rent it? No, anything you want to watch, any game you want to play, any topic you want to study, you can do it where you are. You don't have to move at all. And that really tamps down your interaction with other people, which has the unfortunate side effect that you start caring less about other people. I mean, I like to think that hasn't happened to me. I like to think I still have the same amount of empathy for it, but then again, I didn't grow up this way. And that's what I was concerned about. And I was wondering if you started to see that. You actually answered before I even got there, that maybe you're starting to see the inklings of this.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like that. It does feel like that. That and you know, again, it makes sense. You know, like again, I go back to my personal politics, which you know, I wouldn't even. I know I'm not gonna say I wouldn't even. People wouldn't even identify me as a leftist. But I know, you know, as I keep learning and reading and listening to people, whatever, I know I see a world where I keep going down that way, right? Because it doesn't make sense. And almost all of my quote unquote takes of more, you know, to the right are just because of the situation we're in, right? Like we're in a capitalist society. We're in the United States, right? I don't like the military. I don't support the military, but I know because of the situation we're in, because of money is old, because of where the United States is, if we didn't have a strong military, we'd be doomed. So I know that, right? I don't support the military. I'm not for the military, but it's set up where we need to have a strong military or we're done so. Right. The United States has their hands all over different parts of the world. It's just how it is, right? I'm not pro-capitalist. I'm not yay, keep raising money, but I need money to survive. I need to work. I'm on social media. It is fun, but yeah, I do also make some money off of it, and that helps me out and pay bills. I would personally, if I won a mini lottery that I don't play, I would pay all of my debt and work at a regular job for minimum wage and be perfectly fine, right? But I work because I have to. So a lot of my politics come from me wanting to be somewhere before I have to be. And what I mean by that is like I met the first person that would introduce themselves to me as a trans person in 2014, right? And they, you know, they spoke to me about it. They didn't have to. They educated me about it. They didn't have to. I still didn't understand it, but I was in the spoken word poetry world, and this person shared their poem, and I heard other people sharing their poems about the trans identity, and you know, I was like, that's rough. That sucks, right? And around that time, I was like, I don't want to be convinced to believe something or thought or that something's right or hey, this shouldn't be a law. I don't want to be there when I have to be, like when I have a trans child, when I have this, when I don't want to be I don't want to get it because it impacts me. So any and all of my politics, I try to decide if I were impacted by this, if that was my kid, what would I think? I guess that's where I stand now. Even if I don't get it, because I don't want to. I don't like. One of my biggest fears is my kid having whatever identity, and them having to even think about. I have to let my father know. What am I doing? What did I? Because you know, and that's gonna happen. That's bound to happen, right? Because we can think we're as progressive as we want, but I mean, based on what we said, it's not true. But the next generation will have more access to more ideologies and more progressive ideology, and maybe lean more left. And things are going to be, we're going to be the ones saying, "Oh my God, back in my day, it was never like this." We're going to be the ones saying that. That's just what time tells us, right? And one of my biggest fears is that I have a kid that has to tell me, "Dad, this is who I am," and they're afraid that I'm going to hate them for it or disown them for it, right? So again, and when it comes to my politics, I just try to think, how would I feel in this scenario, and can I try to get there now, even if I don't truly fully understand it? So again, I don't see myself as super political, but in 2024, that is super political. That is left. That is left leaning, giving a crap about others, and I feel like people are not.
No, that's it. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's it. People do not give a crap about others, and because of that, when they see all of what Donald Trump is doing, they say, "Yeah, but my grocery bills are high," and I get it, and I also get that.
Yes, yeah.
So you know, it's just
the issue is that I dunk on that too. Is that this country is filled with millions of people who would slit their mother's throat to save 20 cents on a gallon of milk, and we kind of know that. However, the problem does also lie with the Democrats in that what exactly is the Democratic message to help with that? When people actually complain about their economic prices or their economic stress, the Democrats will come forward saying, we're going to craft a policy to give first-time home buyers a $15,000 tax credit. You've lost people already. You've lost them already. It's done. You need straightforward, simple messaging. This is what I'm going to do. This is how it's directly going to affect you. Not 5 years from now, but right now, we're going to fix it. And to do that, you got to challenge capitalism. And so that's where.
Yeah, you gotta FDR it, bro. This is
how
I'm gonna help you now, and this is how I'm gonna help you later, and this is how I'm gonna help us.
Yeah. Because the thing is, like, I shit on conservatives all the time because they're myopic and they're uneducated and simple-minded and whatever. Fine, that's true, but it doesn't matter. They're still voting, and so you still have to appeal to them. But the problem is kind of.
Can you write something down to see where you're about to go? Because I still want to hear that. But with that idea, the whole they're uneducated and all that, I get nervous about that, even though we know we don't just mean that. I think it takes a lot off of folks who are no, I also just hate these people.
Well,
there's so many of those.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it also, even though we could say the majority or studies say, I get it, but there are also some brilliant people who just, I'm going to use this brilliance to get other folks to hate this specific group of people, this demographic of people. Candace Owens, don't like her. She is smart.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
He is smart, right?
Yeah.
Despise Laura Ingraham. I don't know if she's smart, but she's smart based on how she's talking and who she's talking to, and knowing her audience and or her writers for her. Like
she clerked at the Supreme Court. She is smart.
She's
yeah,
smart as hell, right? These people, there are a lot of uneducated people who who vote for Donald Trump and vote for the right and all that. Yes, but I don't want to pretend like there aren't intelligent people who are also just bigots.
Yeah. That's when it comes to conservatives, there are two types. There are the deceivers and there are the deceived. There is no third category. That describes every conservative you have ever met. And they're one or the other, maybe both, but they are one of the two. And it's just going to happen that way. And so, yeah, as Dutch Vanderlyn would say, the oily enactors of a mediocre justice, the people out there who are purposely, like, your educated conservatives know that going to college is good for you. They know it. They went, their kids go, and sure, college isn't for everybody. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but they will still go out there and say, the college professors are lying to you. This is all nonsense. We know that scientists and doctors are not to be trusted, and they exploit it. And they exploit people's lack of not even access to info, but their lack of info that they have to nefarious ends. Like you mentioned with Candace Owens and everything. Candace Owens is one of the more disingenuous people I've ever seen. That the stuff she says, that because you listen to her long enough, is like she knows that's a lie. She knows, and she'll play into it, and she will say stuff and of course, this is the problem with right-wing politics, or not right-wing politics, but with right-wing media. Ever since Rush Limbaugh, he's the first one to figure it out, that there is a financial incentive for conservative commentators to be as bigoted and as vile and as racist and as harmful and toxic as socially possible, to push it as far as you can go. And the worse of a person you are, the more money you will make. And they figured this out 30 years ago, and it's only gotten worse. You can tell this by listening to them. Charlie Kirk, for example, he's another one who's out there spouting conservative nonsense. That if you listen to Charlie Kirk 5 years ago, he would talk about how he would say the stuff the Republicans used to say that fewer of them are saying now. How, well, Martin Luther King, he was actually a conservative. Like, he was a Republican, which he wasn't, by the way. Just so you know, Martin Luther King wasn't a Republican. They say it all the time. He was not. But they'll say that, not color of your skin, but content of your character. If he was alive today, he would vote for Republicans. But the last couple of years, Kirk has found out that message is not working anymore. So now Charlie Kirk is openly like, yeah, MLK was a bad guy, and the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Like, they keep pushing further and further because they know that's where the money is made. And what I was going to say there about conservatives and how that a lot of them will point to the economic strife or whatever. And I think that going through that does kind of like almost necessarily makes you more insular. And the example I use, that the more dangerous the situation is, the more conservative I become. And I'm pretty sure everyone's the same way. Like, if the building is on fire, I don't give a fuck about misgendering you. I don't. All right. We need to get out of this building right now. And so if you're living in a state of emergency, which conservatives seem to think everything around them is closing in, the woke mob is coming to get them, and they're in a constant state of fear, they're going to care more and more about themselves and less than about other people. But you're right. That doesn't excuse the bigotry, but that's at least one aspect of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And and the deceivers, they prey upon that, right? And they make you scared, and then they sell you their fix for the fear. And like it's part of the, I forgot what it's called, the social determinants of health, right? Like, if you do not feel as though you can take care of yourself, like, why even bother take? I'm sorry, if you can't take care of yourself, then you're going to be always live in a state of, like, kind of trauma, right? So yeah, let's make them feel traumatized. Let's say this is how we're going to fix it, with no actual fix, and then tell them this is the enemy, and everything's easier for them, so they can just always sell this thing. And then when the
Yes.
policies to fix that thing that they're trying to make you scared about, they're not going to vote for it.
No.
Here's the fix, but we're not going to vote for it. But we're going to say we're not going to. It can't be stopped. Here's the fix. Be scared. Like, that's just the common thing, the recurring thing.
That does disappoint me that people don't see that, though. I gotta tell you, like, I didn't need to go to college to figure this out. I think I could have figured this out on my own. I think that kind of disappoints me.
I couldn't, like, in the words of Forrest Gump, I'm not a smart man. But I purposefully in 2020, because I didn't understand, and I was not into politics. I wasn't into politics, but I was, still doing spoken word poetry for, like, the better part of a decade. And I heard different stories from marginalized folks, right? So when, I said 2020, I meant 2016. So when the 2016 election was happening, I was one of the ones saying, hey, he's not going to win, no way. And when he won, I'm like,
yeah,
what? Like, what? And that, that changed my whole worldview. And I'm like, I have to understand. So, that I got more into, like, reading things and listening to things and trying to understand for a couple of years. And then in 2020, when we're home in COVID, I started for almost a year, maybe 2 years. I don't even know. A year, at least a year. I would say maybe an hour and a half of Fox News every day, trying to understand the enemy.
Oh, wow.
Where if somebody said, here's a story, I'm like, okay, this is what Laura Ingram's going to say. Right. This is what Tucker Carlson's going to say this, and he's going to say it like this. And I was almost always right. I'm like, this is how they're going to use this. Right. And off topic, on topic, one of my biggest fears is that I have Alzheimer's one day, and my brain thinks that those are my thoughts.
Oh no.
That's one of my biggest fears.
Oh
because
no.
my wife was like, why are you listening to that? I'm like, yo, I just need to know what they're saying. I just need to know what they're saying. And I just got stuck in there, and it was very bad for my mental health. Listening to these people talk is crazy. And then it just makes me think about all these folks watching Fox News and all that, and, like, shaking their head like, yeah. Because I get it. I get why they eat it up. It's simple. It gives you a common enemy. There, it tries to make things sound ridiculous. And it's like, oh, look at what the Democrats, or look at what the left, the left cares about today, right? And if you have no context about it, some of the stuff does look ridiculous, right? But it's not. But they have very good framing and good writers, and they know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
and when the left tries to do it, it doesn't hit the same, because even my jokes are for me, and to try to make me feel better about the world. I guess that's what comedians do, but I don't call myself a comedian. But I was talking to my therapist about it. I'm like, I think that it's a lot of like hoping that it's just a joke, hope it's funny, hoping that people are dumb, rather than the truth, like, the fact that there are just a lot of hate in this world, right? It's easier for me to be, oh, they're just uninformed and they're dumb, when the reality is, like, no, they don't like you, and they hate you, and they're actively trying to find ways to remove you, right? So I tend to laugh.
Right. Yeah. I do feel bad for people who can't do, like, try to make, I don't know, I do a lot of similar stuff. I try to make jokes on dark topics or something that's uncomfortable, and I do my best to do that. But some people don't have the skill, they don't have the talent to be humorous, and it's like, God, that's gotta sting, just to be stuck with that all the time, and the burden like that. I do feel bad for those folks. I see them out there, and it's unfortunate. Well, oh God, there's so much you said that I want to comment on. I'm just scribbling like crazy here, but you brought up the fact that the right wing is really good at framing anything slightly left of center to be absurd, and there's tons of examples of this. Like, for example, what the abortion thing, how often you hear Republican politicians saying the Democrats want to execute babies the day that they're born. Insane, absolute insanity, not true at all, catches fire, and millions of people believe it. Or the Haitians are,
you know what? There are people listening to that, and they won't even keep watching the news. They're like, "Ah, it's crazy. Turn the TV off."
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
They're like, "This, it's Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's like, and there is no equivalent on the right, because I've noticed before that on the left, like the Republicans will say an absurd policy claim on the left and say, yeah, they want to execute babies when they're born. No, that's not true. Zero people want that. And then the Democrats or the Republicans will say something like, well, there's people for the Republicans who want abortion outlawed for every reason, that no abortions, no exceptions. There are plenty of Republicans who think that. Plenty of them. Like we have nothing like that to make it so hyperbolic that it's not true. And the simplicity kind of works against us in a lot of ways. This is a difficult problem to solve, is that conservatism, you said it, conservatism is so appealing because it requires very little thought. It requires base level, like reptile brain thinking, and this is ironic how much it preys on your gut feelings and your emotions and your instincts and your intuition. And even how often you hear them say this, that it's just common sense. It's common sense.
Accessible.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
They make it accessible, and I think a lot, like the center left and leftists specifically try to like they I think they assume everybody's on the same wavelength, and it's like this code that you have to try to understand what they're trying to say. It's like I often get this compliment that I know they mean it as a compliment, and I don't take it as an insult.
Oh no.
They're like, "Oh, you make things so simple." I'm like, I didn't start reading until I was like freaking 30. Like, yeah, I know. I don't have a ginormous vocabulary like Mr. TJ Whitehead.
Stop it.
But and I'm a teacher, so I'm very used to listening to things and trying to make it digestible, trying to help people understand it, right? But that's what Fox News does. They're like, how can we want people to be upset at this? We know who we want to be upset at this. How can we quickly get them to understand this the smallest amount of it, and get them upset at it without so much information like this? Whereas the left is like, you have to have so much context and so much understanding and be in the know for everything. And it's kind of like, it's elitist, right? It's like, oh,
it is. It's elitist. Yes,
that's all it is, right? So when something that pushed my thinking was like when people were saying, oh, the Democrats are what do you call it? I told you I'm not a smart man. The Democrats are what do they call them on Fox News? They always say that they're the what's it called? Not the upper class, not the.
I was thinking elitist is what you were thinking, but it's something.
I got a brain fart.
It's
you were doing so good today. What happened?
The college educated, upper class, elite, intelligentsia.
I don't know. But anyway, this idea, right? And they always say that these people who are, it's full of these people who are upper class, or these people who are educated, these people, right? And I always took it to mean like, no, that's not true, because not everybody who gives a crap about people is educated or whatever, right? But it's true, like the language people use on a daily basis when trying to push for social justice and all that. It's often like, oh, I read this book, I read this book, I listened to this speaker, I did this work, and now I'm going to use it to get people to try to understand. But it's like, you're forgetting a whole group of people, a whole lot of people who don't have access to what you have access to, who didn't read what you read, who don't understand that vocabulary, right? So when that, it pushed my thinking when they said that, because I'm like, yes, you got to meet people where they're at, and
Yeah.
Fox News and the conservative media does a great job at meeting people where they're at, and then they don't inform them. So like, this is where you're at. I'm gonna make you mad and move on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
sorry.
That's 1,000,000% accurate. That leftist language, especially, is toxically and unnecessarily academic. I have complained about this for a long time. In fact, one of the first videos I ever did on TikTok was about the fact that I actually don't like the phrase white privilege. I don't. And it's not because white privilege isn't real. It is. It 100% is. I don't want to make that confusing for anyone. But I've watched this, and everyone out there listening, you've had this happen to you, where you'll talk about white privilege, and then you were talking to a white person about it, and it immediately puts them on their back foot. And they'll say, whoa, wait a minute. You're saying my life is easy? It's like, no. I'm not saying that white people have it easy in the United States. For your average white person, life is pretty hard. Like, living in the United States, surviving is a slog. It's difficult. Of course, we're just saying that your skin color has not been an impediment to your success. And if you were to ask these folks in a vacuum and say, hey, do you think minorities just on average have it a little tougher than white people in the country? Most of them would say yes. And so I was like, okay, if we keep having to do the step 2, why are we doing the step 1? Why? You
have to spend all your time educating on them on what you mean,
yes,
rather than just saying what you mean.
And I'm sorry that there's no easy, punchy term for that. I'm sorry. I wish there were. And also, a lot of people got mad with that video, and they said that, well, listen, man, we shouldn't have to coddle white people. I know. You're right. Yeah. I'm sorry. This is the world we're living in. Like Jay said, we have to meet people where they are, not where we wish they were. And so if we want to succeed, like saying stuff that is like academically true in the classroom doesn't make it colloquially useful. And I try to do this all the time. Like, I'm glad you mentioned making things simple. That I wish more people, more liberals and leftists would do this, because they're disconnected from your average American in how they speak about these things, because they do speak like they're in classrooms. And leftists are a bit condescending and a bit rude and a bit obnoxious. And so, it doesn't come out very well. But you have to do that. And it's a constant dick measuring contest on the left on who's smarter than whom and who's read the most and who is like the most pure practitioner of left-wing politics. And it's a goddamn waste of time. Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to win over regular people who don't have the fucking time to crack open books on anarchism from 150 years ago, you got to speak to them in regular language. And like, one of my big things is I have tried my best over the years to do exactly what you said, to make it simple, because I use big words every now and then, but I don't confuse anyone. I don't. And it's like you just have to speak in a way that's accessible. Use humor. I know it hurts you guys to use humor sometimes, but humor is incredibly disarming and relatable, that you can talk to someone and make jokes and they'll like you. They will just like you more and be more apt to listen to what you say, other than just preaching and just turning people off. And there's no trophy for being the most progressive person. There isn't, because you brought up something that's very true. Go ahead.
No, just say if anything, it's the worst, because it stops conversations and gets people angry, and
I know
silently.
I know
Hear this and whatnot.
This is something too. They said with one thing that conservatives have that I fucking hate so much is that leftists are not that fun to be around. Is that they honestly do spoil. And look, a lot of it isn't like done in bad faith or whatever. But if you're hanging out with some buddies you went to high school with, and then one of them says, "Hey man, that word you said that we've been saying for 10 years is a bit problematic." No one's having fun right there, right? Like, now that might be the right thing to say. It might be moral or whatever, but it does kind of bring the mood down. And so if you're just if you're looking for it at every turn, I remember once Bernie Sanders was making the speech, and he said that, brothers and sisters, it is incumbent upon us to do our best to fight for the working class, to increase the power of the labor movement. And someone commented on this video and said, have you noticed Bernie always says brothers and sisters instead of sisters and brothers? And I read that as like, what the fuck are we doing here? What the fuck are we doing here? This is a waste of time argument that like it's a dick measuring contest on who is the most moral and the most progressive.
But why that? Why that organ?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I get it. No, I get it. I think people have these thoughts, right? Like they a lot like it goes the opposite way, right? Oh, people are too sensitive. Those same people who are saying people are too sensitive, I'm sure there's something that somebody's gonna say that you're gonna be sensitive about, and other
Yes.
people are not gonna understand. Right now, all over TikTok, there's this well, maybe it's because of my algorithm and videos I commented on, so maybe it's not all over TikTok, but this idea of this one woman talked about how happy she was being skinny, and it just opened the floodgates of fat phobia. Right? And people are like, she didn't say that. She didn't say she hates fat people, blah, blah, blah. But if you say, I love being skinny and my biggest fear is to not be skinny, you're saying things, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, you can't be upset that you can't be upset. You can't be confused as to why people are responding the way they are, why there are think pieces, why there are comments, right? Like even the way she framed it in the beginning, like she knew this was gonna be, like she said, something I can't say. Like you know what you're doing, and then people are like, she didn't even say that. She didn't even say. So like same idea. Like actually, I don't even know where I was going.
No, but
I
that's
think
but
it's the same idea. I don't know the bridge.
no. So like I agree with you because at least I don't know. Maybe I have some sort of extra like some sort of superpower perception. I think this is pretty standard though. Is that you can tell when someone is being intentionally provocative, like that person you're talking about, and someone who's just speaking and who, hey, look, maybe the word they said is like legitimately offensive and they don't know. But if you immediately like turn off sick the dogs on them because they made a mistake, that's good. That once again, like that doesn't make what they said right, or maybe it wasn't a problem at all.
Right.
But there's also just like there's people. Oh yeah, here we go. Just like there's people who are being intentionally provocative for what?
No, you caught it. You caught where we were because I'm like,
oh yeah. So just like there are people who are being intentionally provocative, there are people who are being intentionally antagonistic, just trying to find anything they can to make themselves look like better people, and that's annoying as hell. It's because we're all gonna fall short eventually. Like you mentioned, 100 years from now, we think we're really progressive. If you fast forward us 100 years from now, we are not chill dudes. We have some backward ass beliefs that society has moved well beyond. There's I don't know, I saw a TikTok a while ago about, one of these days your granddaughter is going to bring home a robot boyfriend and let's see how progressive you are then and stuff. Yeah. And so like, we're not going to, but here's the way I see this, that like you said, that eventually something's going to happen where your views are probably going to be behind society's. And I think we're all prepared for that to happen one day. I mean, I live long enough, it's going to happen to me. Now I have one of two options at that point. I can either recognize the fact that, my views are behind what the general population believes. And the fact of the matter is the world is going to move on either with me or without me. And honestly, eventually just without me, whether I want to or not. And I can accept that and just take it as it is, or I can make it my entire goddamn personality to just be raging upset that the world that I'm in now at an age as an 80-year-old does not mirror the world that I existed in as a 20-year-old. That I don't get. I don't get that second half of why people choose to take that route. This is your last couple decades on Earth, and you're going to spend it just being angry that the world isn't the one that you wanted it to be. So I don't know. It's just kind of sad to see. What was the next one I had here?
And for me, all of this is not to say that, like it's not to say, hey, you gotta talk to these people nicely or try to get them to laugh. All
right.
This, I still will not use my time to educate bigots that I have no idea if I don't have to deal with them in my everyday life. Right. I'm not gonna be at a restaurant and somebody says something crazy and be like, well, actually, like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I did that in my 20s. Right now, I'm tired. I'm tired and I'm tired.
Yeah.
But the tough conversations I will still have. I have with my mother. I have with my brother. I have with my friends, the people who I've seen, do good and be good to me in different lights. And I can think past whatever their point of view is, and I know I can speak to them, and it can be a conversation, right? So as you may know, I have like a certain style of video where I'm, testing the waters, where I'm just throwing in
Love
ideas
those.
to see
Love
where
those.
people are, right? First of all, a few things. One, that's a joke.
Yeah.
And maybe the comments are a joke, maybe they're not. I hope they are. A lot of people are like, I said this exact thing this week, and I'm like, that's weird. Like that's weird. You probably shouldn't be doing that, right? Because in reality, if I'm at a party, a friend's party, and somebody says something crazy, if it's a friend's party, either maybe I'll say something, but I'll probably just leave. I'm like, this is a lot. I'll leave,
Yeah.
or I won't cause a scene. This is my friend's thing. I'll tell my friend, hey, your friend said this crazy thing. I also never want to be around your friend ever again. Thanks. Right? That's what I'm gonna do. Right?
Yeah.
But if it's like I said, if it's a family member or a friend or even a coworker, I'm gonna have those tough conversations. So this is what we're talking about here. I'm not telling everybody, hey, be nice to those racist people.
Right.
That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, thank you. I made that very clear. None of this is advocating that you don't call out the bigotry or that you just accept it and say, yeah, it's fine. And we're going to be cool and buddy, and it's going to be all right. No, it's like, but present it in a way that makes sense and that is strategic. Like I said, because same way. When I was younger, I debated, I fought, I did all this. And like other guys I'm around that are in this space, they love the debates. I was like, if I've learned anything, it is a goddamn waste of time. It is the only value that comes out of this is exactly the way you put it, is if people know how you feel about something, they disagree and they come to you. Because when they come to you, they respect your opinion. Because like you can try to argue with someone all day long, but if they don't really care what you think, it doesn't matter. They already have to know that you're someone who has intelligence they respect, who has integrity that they respect. And they're like, okay, so this person who I think is smart and I think is honest has a completely different opinion than me. I'm going to find out why he thinks this way. That's the only way to, and you probably won't move them then, but that's the only time that you can. And I just, one of the things I love when I'm debating conservatives, like this happens. Like I generally don't go out of my way to do it, but this is what happens. They'll come to me and they'll ask my opinion and everything. And I cannot tell you how many times this has happened. And you guys are free to steal this out there, but they'll say, you know what, man, I don't agree with you on these, your opinions, but I gotta admit, you're really smart. You know what you're talking about. You're pretty intelligent. I love that because I never say it back. I never one time, I never say it back. I was like, okay, thanks. And it's great because I love it when it happens all the time. But I was like, buddy, you just ceded all of the power to me. You just told me you thought I was smart. I'm not going to say it back because I don't think you're particularly bright. And just sit with that. Just sit and let that. And they can't say I'm being rude. I'm not obligated to return the compliment. So it's great. And if you know what you're talking about, it will happen all the time. So Freewheeling Nomad put a thing up here. You kind of touched on it, so that's why I brought it up here. He wrote that I'm a political activist and would like to ask Jay what we can do to help Latino communities see that voting for Trump or Republicans is completely against their interests. I mean, I guess like that could apply to anyone, but I guess particularly you for the Latino community. Like, what do you think?
I have a weird thing about, the idea of voting and all that against your interests, right? Like, people are voting against their interests. I hear you, but a lot of people are they're voting against the interest here because they really don't like this thing, and they're voting for their interest here, and they're not looking at it as one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't care enough. They don't care enough to look at it in that way. And not, to be honest, nothing is that way. You could vote for your interest when you talk about, if you got Kamala Harris and you thought Kamala Harris was going to do great, she would do a lot of things against the Latina community, and she would have done a lot of things against the Black community. She would have done a lot of things against the trans community. What's the interest here, right?
Yes.
And when it comes to Latina community, like we talked about earlier, just like the Black community, there are a lot of conservatives or conservative values and conservatives both, right? And a lot of folks in marginalized communities will go and vote blue and still have all of these takes that a Trump supporter would have.
Yeah.
Right. So you just have to talk to your folks, like talk to people be careful, but you just have to have those tough conversations with folks that are willing to listen to you, right? And if you're a political activist, right, you have to put yourself in the position to talk to people who disagree with you and whatnot, right? Because that's what you're trying to
What
do,
you
right?
do,
What,
yeah.
what is your goal? If your goal is to make content on social media and just make people laugh, your goal is not necessarily to try to change people's minds. It's just try to poke fun at things that you see that are funny or the hypocrisy of politics, right? But if your goal is to try to reach across the aisle, then you're gonna have to do things to reach across the aisle. So for Latina community, you would have to, I guess, show how they are being hurt, and you're gonna have to understand that some of them might not care, and some might not believe you, and some might say that's just propaganda, and be okay with that, right? I saw a video of a political of an activist that was saying that people are not as progressive as they think they are, right? And they went out and saying that they actively feed. I think they were. I think it was I think I forgot their identity, but I know
Mhm.
that they were like they helped feed people who actively said racial slurs against them. And it's like, but here's food because that's what I'm doing. And people were like, I wouldn't have given them food. I wouldn't have fed them. They're like, then you're not doing what you say you're doing. You're
Yeah,
not as radical as you think you are,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that same thing comes about when people are talking about, the death penalty or prison, right? So, abolish prison. That person belongs in prison.
yeah. I know. Yeah, they try to have it both ways. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, um, I think the best thing, think about your goal as an activist, right? What is your goal? Because your goal can be just informing folks. Your goal can be trying to change folks' minds. Maybe your goal is if your goal is to reach out to the Latina community, I would say find activists that are already doing that and try to find ways to amplify their voices, right? So just like I tell my students, what is your goal? And then, backwards plan to figure out how to get there. Because somebody described it as described social justice as a highway. It's a
Hmm.
different lane, a lane highway, different lanes, and everybody's doing something on a different lane, and just gotta find
Yeah,
your lane and figure out where you're going.
yeah, yeah. The what I too find voting against your interest to be a loaded term,
Hmm.
because what you need to do is identify someone's preeminent interest. Like, what do they care about the most? Because like they may not be
Yes,
well, they may not be a single issue voter, but there are going to be one or two issues that are really driving them forward. No one checks the box on every single issue that a candidate believes, but they have issues that
right.
mean a lot to them. So like for us, we can look at big picture stuff and say, okay, strengthening unions is going to allow people to make more money, going to have them get more time off, more leverage against your employer. That's going to shift the economy towards regular people, and then eventually that's going to lead to a society where you can support a family on one income and housing prices. Well, we can think of that in the long term. A lot of people don't think that way. A lot of people are not
Mhm.
thinking that, and so when
And
you
even if you
lead,
did that, and even if it was successful, a lot of people wouldn't see that it was the strengthening unions that did that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the mistake that Republicans make when it comes to making America great again. Because if they all say they want to take society back to the 1950s, they say it all the time, and I say I'm with you. Let's have a 90% top marginal tax rate like the 1950s. Let's implement brand new social policies. Let's have government backed funding for housing. Let's create stuff like Medicare for everyone, and like let's expand the GI Bill so more people to go to college. That's the part of the 1950s I want, but that's not what they mean. What they mean is, no, not at all. They say we want the queer community to be back in the closet. We want women to be forced to stay with their husbands whether they want to or not. We want
The no
certain
fault
folks.
divorce thing, bro.
Hmm?
The no fault divorce
No
or
fault
whatever.
divorce.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
they wanna get rid of no
crazy.
fault divorce. Yeah, yeah. It's like, and for those who are wondering what he's talking about with no fault divorce, if let's say Jay and I were married, and
Yeah.
I know, right? So, but I'd say Jay and I were married, and he decided, well, I don't want to be with TJ anymore. I think he's a toxic influence on me, and I want to leave him. He can do that. He is like, yeah, I want to end this marriage, this contract. I want to end it. But if it were pre no fault divorce, he would need to demonstrate to a court that he had a valid reason to leave me. And let's say I was physically or mentally abusive, or I was financially abusive, whatever. I was making his life miserable. He would need to go to court for this shit. He would need to have records. He need to have proof I was cheating. He would need to prove to a jury. First off, just putting his business out there on public information that this happened and make his life exceptionally more difficult, honestly put his life in danger, because we're both dudes, but like if you're a woman, like you're putting your life in physical danger to do this, and it's like, no, we're gonna put as many hoops between you and your husband as we possibly can, and you and the divorce as we possibly can. And if you want to check out some funny stats on this, look at the amount of women of men who died from poisoning back then and compare it to now. It's like, yeah, like women found a way out of that. There's just no benefit to this. And this is what bothers me too when people talk about, oh, back in the day, people stayed married. Yeah, they didn't have a choice. That women couldn't open bank accounts. They couldn't get jobs. They were shunned by society. That doesn't impress me, that the divorce rate was so low back then.
And let me imagine the conservative talking point. Ready? People will make sure they would think more deeply before they get married and make sure that partner is right for them with no fault divorces. That's what they're saying, right? I'm imagining. I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's what they would say.
Yeah.
It's going to help people, make sure they're making the right decision and think twice before just going into a marriage. Sure.
This is another aspect of conservative thinking, that they imagine a scenario to be the correct answer, whether there's evidence for it or not. There's two types of main schools of economics that came out of the 20th century, where you had Keynesian economics, which most of you have heard of, you're familiar with, like supply and demand economics, but you had the Austrian school of economics, which essentially it's conservative, it's trickle down economics and everything like that. And the entire focus of this Austrian school of economics is that if you give rich people more money, they're going to share the wealth with everybody else. And if you look at like the model for Austrian economics, it's not based on empiricism. It's not based on what you can see. It's based on what you imagine will happen. The entire thing is just made up, and it's fun. It's fueled conservative thought. And just like this is what works with that situation, where it's like, well, I'm sure this would happen. I'm sure people would just choose better at 20 years old, because we know people stay the same for 50 years. The person you are at 20 is the same person you are at 70. That's just how human beings work, right?
Thank the God I don't believe in that. That's not true.
Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Can you imagine you're the same person you were when you were 20 years old? And
20's okay, 18 is crazy.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I gotta move on. We're going through almost out of time here. But all right, so the thing you mentioned something about, I can't remember what you said, but that if your thinking on politics or social relations is just based on spite and being vindictive, you're not as progressive as you claim to be. And I've seen a lot of this since Harris's loss, in that people will say stuff like black people, because black people were like the only population that didn't really move. It's been the same for like all three elections with Trump. And I've seen like black creators like, listen, we went out and we voted against Trump, but I noticed a lot of Middle Easterners didn't do that. So I hope Gaza burns to the ground. I hope Gaza is just demolished. I'm like, wait a minute. So your support, your opposition to genocide was based on whether people voted for Kamala Harris. So you're not really opposed to genocide, are you? And I've seen this with against white women, because white women, frustratingly, once again, white women at like 53% voted for Trump, which I thought they'd come through this time. I thought for sure with the abortion stuff we'd get them, but nope. White men who vote for Trump has been near 50% pretty much every time, above 50% these last two times. And then I've seen like black creators saying, listen, next time you guys want to organize against abortion, don't call me. I won't be there. Why not? Why the fuck not? Like, are you against abortion or not? Or are you only against abortion if a sufficient number of white people vote against Donald Trump? Like, it's your morality is way out of line.
And I think that's also like the problem with the left as well. It's like, it assumes that you have perfect morals.
Yes,
like,
yeah,
and it's like an easy contradiction, because you could be center left, you could be on your way left, you could be going there, but the second is like, oh, you think this, but you don't think this. You're a liar. You're a bigot. You're a fraud. And it's who like what. Name one person that is all the way good. You can't, right? But we're just trying to figure it out. Yeah, there you go. One person is all the way good. We're trying to figure it out. I know I am. I know that to many people, I am not. Progressive enough, and that's why it's a spectrum. But I know as years go on, and when I'm lucky, if I'm lucky enough to be a father, um, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, that I will continuously go that way. And again, a lot of my thought processes, or the policies I'd like to see, stuff like that, if they are right or center right, it's because of the circumstances we're in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we're do I do I wish everybody there was a universal basic income? Yes, but I don't know that's ever going to happen in the United States. Probably not. So maybe I will settle for somebody more in the center left, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. Am I part of the problem because I'm not voting this way? So it's never gonna happen. Maybe, I don't know. But again,
Yeah, I just
that's
like so yeah, we're stuck in this is the kind of the schism. I've noticed this schism. That was the first major schism I think between like millennials and Gen Z, that I had seen a lot of Gen Zers saying, "Listen, Kamala Harris is not vowing to stop the genocide, so I can't vote for her." I get it.
mhm,
Honestly, I have never shit on anyone for that point of view, because honestly, like when you're looking at, if you want to express your morality, I think it's a poor way to look at voting, but I get it. I understand it, because I don't see how life is any better if Harris loses and Trump gets to nominate 2 more Supreme Court justices. I just think that's a lot worse all around. But you have to. Where's it going with this? Fuck, I can't remember where the morality of it is
don't
gone.
worry, I did it all day today. But the
Yeah,
morality thing, right? The morality thing, right? I get it too, because if in your heart, in your head, in your mind, genocide is the worst thing, it's very easy. It's not a long leap to say
yeah,
that's what you do.
exactly. Yeah, I get
You
it.
know?
Yeah, I absolutely understand. Oh yeah, the age thing, because I think that as you get older, and I hate pulling that card. It's like, well, I was young once too. Like I hate sound like that, but it's just that you kind of realize practicality is all we have. It's all we
Yeah.
have. I would love to walk over the ruins of the White House in a tattered red cape. I'd love that. Okay, and have our socialist revolution. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The world that I want to see is 500 years away at the earliest, and
Mm,
so every step towards that, I think, is for the best. But I do understand people's like their aspiration for the best possible outcome. I just think that we need to take the steps there that are necessary. I want to pull this up real quick. Where did I see it? Okay. I keep taking his comments. I agree. We need to start realizing that your average American doesn't have common sense and stop using that as a default when messaging our ideas. Okay, so I'm going to disagree with you, Freeway Nomad, is that I think almost all of them have common sense. Common sense is just really shitty. Common sense is wrong all the fucking time. Like, common sense tells you the earth is flat, right? You walk outside, everything's flat. The idea that you're standing on a ball and that someone is standing the other side of the ball and neither of you are falling off, there's no common sense about that. You have to learn about the theory of gravity and stuff.
mm,
Like, I mean, common sense is there's a lot of things that are just counterintuitive, and that's what common sense tells you, that there are 2 genders. Common sense is like common
mm,
sense tells you that, oh, if a rich person has more money, they're going to invest that money into their business and give me a raise. None of that is true. And so that's what I think, that conservatives actually leech on that. What do they always say? That, oh, this is biology 101. It's like, yeah, this is basic biology, but that's basic biology. If you're going to teach this to like a first grader, oh yeah, of course this makes sense. But once you get to intermediate biology, things get different. Common sense tells you a fish cannot turn into a reptile. They do. That's how it happened, right? And so this is why I'm always against saying that, oh, we need common sense. No, we don't. The common sense is absolutely the opposite. All right, so I wanted to ask you something here about, I thought you went overseas for your wedding. I thought it was Greece. Am I right about that?
yeah, I went to Greece for my honeymoon.
Honeymoon,
Um,
honeymoon.
and it was incredible. It's the first time I didn't. I've been to different. I've been to Ecuador, but it's like a family trip. I've been to Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico, but I've only been to San Juan, so I'm not gonna be like I've been to Puerto Rico. Um,
Hey,
and I
you
went to
haven't, right?
Mexico. Every time I went to Mexico and DR, it was for the most almost always what do you call it, the resort, right? So
Mhm.
my wife my wife pushes me in all types of ways, and she found a way to get me to say yes to go to Greece. And it just like I was like, it was so incredible. And it just made me want to say yes to everything else. She's like, let's go here. I'm like, sure. How are we gonna plan that? Let's do it. Like, yes. Before that, it was like, oh, I want to be at a pool bar. in Mexico. Like, and that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, Greece for my honeymoon was incredible. It was incredible. And again,
I
I
wanted.
just went to like two states. I went to two cities, so I'm not even gonna say I went to Greece, but
What,
I
how do
visited
you keep
Athens and
selling,
Santorini.
you keep selling yourself short? Like, what is your standard of bit? Do you have to live there
I
for a
don't know.
year? Like, what is your,
I don't know. Like, because no, honestly, my standard is probably because I got feedback in the comments when I was like, I went to Greece. They were like, you went to Athens. I'm like, all right. I went to Greece. You went to Santorini and nobody was there. I'm like, all right, all right. Maybe
man,
that's why.
yeah,
Maybe
that's
that's
it. Like there's commenters who just make it their mission in life to just be shitty, to like to bring people down. I don't understand it. I wonder that, like, I try my best not to read comments. I really do. But TikTok
yeah.
kind
I
of
don't. I
forces.
don't do too much. I'll respond for the first like maybe day, maybe like an hour or like an hour or something. I just go back just to like talk to folks, and then I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna read them anymore because usually they go dark
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. I just don't get people who just troll TikTok just to shit on folks. I don't understand. I've never done that. Then again, maybe if I didn't make content, I would, but I doubt it. And I wanted to ask you about it real quick, but I will pull this comment I saw here from John Amorim. But hey guys, big hug from Brazil. Things are getting crazy everywhere. Yeah, Brazil is that. That's one major country that's pretty similar to ours in its political upheaval and everything going back and forth between fascism and folks. Can we stop the fascism? Like just kind of like a seesaw going on right there. But so I've been overseas too in a few places, and what's one of my favorite things about it is noticing like Europe is great for this. Actually, Europe is especially great because it's so similar to the U.S. with just tiny differences here and there. And can you think about anything you saw there that you would like to see implemented here? I'll give an example. This isn't in Europe, oddly enough, but say again.
The breakfast was so good.
Breakfast, food in general, like their food is fantastic. Yeah.
The food is good, but the breakfast was so good.
What was the breakfast like?
It was like, I mean, it was hotel stuff, and so it was like, I don't know, it just like it was breads, the honeys, and the yogurts. It was just like there was eggs and sausage and everything you see like in a continental breakfast there, and I didn't touch any of it because I'm like, this honey is incredible, this bread is incredible, the coffee was good, like everything. It just I think Greece, and yes, I think I think about the Slovakia. Yes, I think about the gyros. My wife makes fun of me because I say gyros.
Isn't that how you say? You say
yes,
yeah.
and she still makes fun of me. And then I'm like, but if somebody says something in Spanish wrong, you would say that's wrong. So I feel like she gets me, but she's just trolling me. I'm not sure. But like I don't know. I just felt like it was just a very simple breakfast, but everything seemed like they cared about it. It was purposeful. It wasn't just like, it didn't feel like it was just like this is something that we have to go. So maybe that's the idea, right? It wasn't like American breakfast, or it was like you got to get up and go. It's time to start your day. It was kind of like the culture very much felt like you're gonna enjoy this moment, even for breakfast. And
Yeah.
it was weird. It was weird for me. I was like, oh, okay. I guess.
Yeah, this is just thought of two things when you said that. The first was the actually enjoying eating. That's something that I realized as an adult, honestly, that I inhale my food. I barely even taste it. I just devour the entire plate. And that led to me eating too much because it's too fast and my stomach doesn't realize that I'm full. And it's just bad for you. Like, I don't need to be doing that. And you don't enjoy it. Or this happens like if you've ever been on the phone, like eating a slice of cake, and then next thing you know, the cake is gone and you didn't taste it at all. Because you were distracted doing something else. That it's just sitting down and actually enjoying your meal. And like breakfast is another one where we don't sit down and savor breakfast. You just pop it in, eat it, head out the door. And I thought about when I was in Germany, I remember I was too young to drive back then, but I remember a lot of people saying that they would complain that the German cars didn't have cup holders. There were no cup holders in these cars because driving was for driving, as far as the Germans were concerned. Driving wasn't for being distracted and drinking your coffee. Driving is the activity in and of itself. But Americans are like, oh, let's multitask and do the stuff here. And I also thought about specifically the hotel breakfast, because I have a story about that when I went to China. I was in Beijing and stopped it up. We were at a hotel that first morning there. And that first night, we came downstairs in the morning. And they met us in the lobby. And they said, okay, well, we got breakfast prepared. And they knew we were an American group. And they said, so the breakfast is in this room over here. on the right side of the room, we have your traditional American breakfast. On the left side of the room, we've got Chinese breakfast. So you can choose whatever you want. And I thought, I have no clue what Chinese breakfast would possibly be. I mean, like, I didn't even know where to, like, but I was like, oh, I got to see this. And so, of course, we all went to the, say again?
And what was it?
Yeah, right. And so I mean, I had the same feeling you're having right now. So I got to see this. So of course, we all went to the left side of the room to get the Chinese breakfast. Chinese breakfast food, exact same thing as the Chinese food. At least to me, I couldn't tell the difference. It was a lot of strips of chicken and pork, and there's rice, and there's like, oh, and soy sauce.
Rice. Yeah,
yeah, it didn't seem any different than lunch or dinner food. And then I thought, well, that's kind of strange. And so, well, wait, no, it's not, because why are eggs breakfast food? Why you could eat eggs anytime you want, but we've all decided you eat those in the morning. That's the rule. Eggs are eaten in the morning, so are pancakes and waffles. No reason for this. None whatsoever. We just picked that it was. Sense. Common sense tells you, yeah, you can't. Yeah, coffee is the only one that kind of makes sense. Okay, have that one in the morning, but
maybe once upon a time people got the fresh eggs in the morning, see what the chickens made, and they were like, oh, we got breakfast. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's some actually explanation for it or whatever, but it's none that apply now. There's no breakfast for dinner is one of my favorite pleasures in life. That you whip up some pancakes and eggs for dinner. It's great. So little things like that I do find kind of interesting. And all right, so we're over time for like 5 minutes or so, but this is a good time. So I wanted to. Oh no, 2 more questions. What's the best place you've been? Is Greece your favorite place that you've been to, or?
I'm gonna say yeah, but it's kind of like a cheating, because I was dealing with a lot of different things at that time. Like at that point, I was very, 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 I was very, very, very big. I was over 400 something pounds, and at that point, 430 pounds ish, and at that point, I was recovering. I actually postponed our wedding because my back wasn't working. And then after that was a year after I did some physical therapy, but I still couldn't really move much. So for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months before the wedding, I was on the treadmill, not even to try to lose weight. I guess I was trying to lose weight, but I was also trying to just move more.
Yeah.
My wife loves to walk, loves to move around. I didn't want to be a reason why we couldn't do that. So like when I look at Greece, I loved Greece, loved the views, loved everywhere we went. But I think back on it, and I really appreciate the fact that I was in my largest body of ever, but I was walking. Walking everywhere, climbing up all the stairs, and I was sweating, and it was hard. And at the end of it, my foot didn't work, but I did it, and I really appreciated it. And I've been going through this transformation about how I think about myself and my body, and being fat, all of these things, right? And I wish in that moment I was able to take out of that, hey, you're in your largest body and you were able to do this. Instead, I left that moment, hey, you're big, you were able to do this, but you should change this, right? So there's a lot of goods and bads when I think about Greece, but when you're asking the best place ever, I think Greece ties back to that. So I guess I'm still gonna say Greece because it was beautiful, food was delicious. It was my honeymoon. There's a lot of reasons why it was my favorite trip. But it was a beautiful place, and we do want to go again. And we don't want to go in the summer because apparently the summer's crazy. We went at a time where apparently nobody goes.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Santorini, and everything was closed. Everything was closed.
Oh,
we got at a restaurant and had to pay like $130 for something.
Why was everything closed?
Not good. Nobody was there. Everybody went to a different island it was December. It was the week of Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
Everybody went to another island for their own vacation. So barely anybody was there. And I'm talking about like it was a ghost town, right?
Mm.
And we found a really nice restaurant that we ate like 3 times the food, and it was so much better than that other food, and it was like a third of the price. So we got in that first spot. we got in that first spot. And it was a really good time. And when we go back, we want to go considering that time or somewhere in the middle. I think October and May is somewhere in the middle where it might be packed, but not nowhere near as bad it would be in the summer. You've seen those videos where like, hey, this is the vacation they sell you, and then you try to take a picture in the same place, and there's like a lot of people, like 100 people trying to take that same picture. I'm telling you, when we went there was nobody. There was
Mm,
not, I didn't
mm.
have there was nobody. Like Jay, there was like 20 people. There was nobody. And it was like it was beautiful. So I'm like I would go back in December to Santorini or one of the other islands. Yeah, it was a great time.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I've never been to Greece. That does sound like a fun place to go. I mean, even if it's just Athens or whatever, I would love to go there sometime. All right, so I always end these. I always like to end these by asking folks their favorite bit of trivia. So, what do you got for us? Like your favorite bit of trivia?
Yeah, you send me the questions and I have no idea what to say. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
you don't
I have no
got.
idea. I don't have a favorite piece of
Oh,
trivia.
okay. All right, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm sorry. I know you were so excited. I'm like, I don't know.
No, it's fine. That's
Oh, we could do this. Hey, I said it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again as a based on where I am in my journey of life right now. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, everybody hates fat people.
all right. That's one right there.
In
Um,
fact,
yeah, yeah. I feel like you
sorry.
probably mentioned some during the show, like a tidbit or something. Like the thing about people going to shutting down everything in December in Greece. I didn't know that. Or the pronunciation thing. The pronunciation thing. I meant to jump on that earlier, so I'll take the opportunity here. So you say Euro, because I assume that's the like an approximation of how it's said in Greek, right? And that's why you say it that way.
Once again, I got feedback, so I said it like that. I'm gonna say it right. I'm a rule follower, right? So somebody like say that, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna say it like this, and then my wife just makes fun of me all the time.
So I don't know. I have a weird thing with this. Go ahead. No, please.
But no, I would say, but I always tell her she's Dominican. So if somebody was like, I love this mango instead of mango, she'd be like, it's actually mango. I'm like, so I'm like, you get it though. You get it.
So
Again, she's my biggest troll.
so this is a topic that I've found humorous for a long time because there are two, well, I mean, these are two types of people, like people who will insist on saying it the correct way, the foreign word, and then people who just don't care either way and get annoyed that you're doing it. And we're all both those people. All of us are both of those people because you don't say every foreign word like the correct way or whatever. And I have like these arbitrary lines on where I expect people to say it. Cause like Euro, like if someone were to say Euro, I would like, okay, that's an approximation how it sounds, and it's fine. But if like some like white guy was like, yeah, I picked up a burrito, I'd be like, I'd be like, what? Why are you doing that? Why? He's like, well, that's how you say it, right? It's like, yeah, but it just seems like nobody calls Paris Paris in the United States. Nobody does it. Nobody calls St. Louis San Luis. No one calls Des
And
Moines.
if they did, you'd be like, what are you
You'd be
doing?
like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you, right?
You're
And
right.
but
No, you're right.
yeah, and so but there's certain like I remember years ago in Niger, the African country Niger, a lot of like there was some U.S. intervention going on there. And I saw so many people saying, yeah, stop saying Niger. It's pronounced Niger. I was like, do you pronounce every country? In fact, Niger probably isn't right because you don't speak the language. You're probably fucking it up too. So people who are like Nazis about the words, because like nobody says mozzarella. And, okay, it would be weird if you did. Like, I want some mozzarella. It'd be kind of strange. But it's arbitrary on which words I expect people to say the correct way and which one they don't. But it's just culturally
You probably
decided.
don't even know all of the words you want people to say correctly and not
right.
Somebody's gonna say a word, you're like, I never thought about it, but I'm like,
right. Yeah. You don't. You don't. And so I just there was this guy, there was a Puerto Rican guy in my unit, and he was like third generation. He didn't have an accent.
Generation.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, even English words, like we can fuck every now and then. And he did speak Spanish, but he had no traceable accent. And it was funny when another Puerto Rican came, was like, oh man, his Spanish accent is so bad. They would always talk about, I couldn't tell, obviously, but he would like throw out like a Spanish word and like really put it on. I was like, come on, man. You're trying to say it that way. It doesn't sound natural. That's what it is. It's got to sound natural. It has to sound like natural. I think Euro does flow in the conversation, but if it makes it seem like you're just trying to show how much you know, like, all right, yeah. But then again, everyone's standard is different, so for different words. But those two,
it's funny. 'Cause it makes me think about my friend. He makes fun of me also because I said in my honeymoon or in Greece so many times for like a year, 2 years. But again, it's like the first time I was not in a very very familiar place or not in a resort. So it's not like I have all these travel stories. So I'm like in Greece, oh in Greece, and I was so excited. And he's like, and after a while he was like, all right, this is what you're doing. I'm like, oh, I guess I can't be excited.
I know, right? Yeah. Sorry, I'm having a good time. Yeah, I get it. That's all right. No, enjoy it. People are allowed to enjoy themselves. Like we're only here for a short period of time. Stop killing everyone's fun. But all right, so we'll close things out here. Thank you guys for joining. I'll look over the comments, see if anyone asked a question that I feel like throwing out to Jay real quick. Nope, I think they're all good. But okay, all right. Catch you guys later. I'll talk to you a little bit.